In the following video I will reflect on the concept of spectral similarity. Please look at the mouse, and here it says above on the Metatron Hunter device, above it says list of heals according to decreasing spectral similarity. I am going to reflect on the relevance of this. Concept, but before that, it is. A measurement that was achieved after in pathology appears a list of pathologies, and we can see on the right below what says object. What I mentioned before, these two lines represent the measurement of the person we are going to take out, and it is herein what corresponds to the concept of etalon. This is the concept of heal, so this is a list of heals, and each heal corresponds to the electromagnetic characteristic of a pathology. It is the record that characterizes a pathology and is represented by a graph with a blue line and a red line. To explain it in a simpler way, it is like a photograph of a disease. It's as if, for example, we go to a restaurant and order the menu. It's like the menu, I have the menu, but we can't confuse the menu with dinner, which are different concepts. Nor, if we want to tour a national park in a place with nature, we arrive at the entrance of the park and ask at the information office, please give me a map of the place. A map is not the same as the hill, therefore we cannot confuse the map with the territory. These are maps, they are photographs and representations of pathologies, but in itself a pathology is something else. This is a representation of a pathology, so now we are going to see the phrase. List of heals, according to the decreasing spectral similarity. Here I copied the phrase, I have it in my language, Spanish, list of stubs according to spectral similarity. It says decreasing spectral similarity, and here's the phrase in English. But let's see what the word similarity or similarity means. In my language, Spanish, the word similarity, in the dictionary of the Royal Academy of the Spanish Language, means similarity. And what does resemblance mean? It's similar, affinity. In other words, it is something similar. So here we have the concept of spectral similarity, similar to spectral, that is, it makes a comparison, decreasing list, it is a decreasing list, therefore higher it is more similar, and in the end it is less similar, that is, a comparison is made and the similarity is shown. Let's see, this is the patient information, for example, which is the object. I'm going to pull it out, and now there's the pathology information, there's the pathology information, and there's the object information. But if we do an overlay and we put the four lines together, and we click on spectrum, here we are seeing if what the software does is a comparison, if it is similar or not, if it looks similar or not. So, here comes the reflection, the important reflection. Imagine, please, think that you are walking down the street and you see someone who looks like a child. Does it mean that this person is your child? If you are walking down the street and you see someone similar, for example, your mother, does it mean that that person is that is, something similar is not exactly. It's something different. We're comparing two different things. Therefore, bioresonance diagnosis with the Metatron device compares the patient's information with the information of the pathology and sees if there is similarity, if it is similar or not. I, like all people, have often gone to a clinic or a medical center when I have the flu, a cold, when something happens to me, and well, I hope that the doctor in general, when I have gone to the doctor, has done normal, preventive blood and urine tests, an interview. Clinic, and then the doctor comes to a diagnosis and makes a diagnosis. But it doesn't tell me, you have something similar to the flu, then, or you have something similar to gastritis and we're going to give you a remedy because the diagnosis is similar to. No, it's not. That's the difference that exists between a diagnosis in the health area with a diagnosis in bioresonance. I, as a health professional, as a psychologist, can make diagnoses in mental health, for example a diagnosis of depression, but I cannot tell a person you have something similar diagnosis that I give you a report with my name. And I sign it and say diagnosis similar to post-traumatic stress. Well, do you have PTSD or not? How similar is this? That is the difference to understand why this list of elements does not correspond to a medical diagnosis. I repeat, this list of elements does not correspond to a medical diagnosis. The diagnosis of bioresonance is this: it is the measurement of the person. Here is this element. The object concept, this concept, corresponds to the measurement of the person. This whole database that we found here is a list of elements, but a list of heels that are electromagnetic characteristic records are different things, and what we found here is, as it says, a spectral similarity. So if you please, if you are watching my video and you arrived and he arrived and he's listening to me and he's watching this video and he bought, for example, the Metatron device online on some Amazon, Alibaba, AliExpress, or he bought it somehow and he has the device, and you see that it says, for example, a measurement is made and it says rhinitis. So I have rhinitis and it says hysteria is that I have hysteria. Here it says herpes. I have this. Is not to say with the Metatron apparatus I have this. Please, please, please don't do it. This is not a medical diagnosis, therefore it is a diagnosis of complementary therapy. It is a diagnosis of bioresonance, and bioresonance as a complementary therapy has the attribute of making a diagnosis, but it is different from the medical diagnosis. It may match the medical diagnosis, but it can also be different. To continue with the analysis and reflection, here we are on the website of the World Health Organization, where the definition of bioresonance therapy as a form of holistic medicine appears, and this is another very important element to be able to understand how the Metatron device works. That is, the Metatron device is a bioresonance device, and bioresonance is a medicinal device, and it says here that electromagnetic waves are used to diagnose. Here it is, you see it. Therefore, yes, indeed, for the World Health Organization it is possible to make a diagnosis with a bioresonance device, but it is different from medical diagnosis and claims to treat human and animal diseases in what way? Through the manipulation of electromagnetic oscillations. Endogenous, that is, with the same information of the person we are going to return to the software. Here we have the information of the person. Therefore, when we do metatherapy, we are doing treatment considering the person's information. As an example, observe, we are going to do a therapy on this element and you will see how it changes, how the person is after the treatment. Therapy has begun and each point is sending the therapy to each point. The circle is advancing and at each point a treatment is being carried out. So, we can see that the line changed. Notice, we're going to go upstairs. This was the characteristic of measurement before the Y after therapy. Here is the result of therapy. Notice, it changed, the lines changed and the blue and red lines are closer together. And if we now go back to do another therapy, we're going to see that again the lines are going to change again. This is a therapy to the entire electromagnetic field, to all the health problems that the person may have. That is, every point that we see in this image is represented from 1 to 6 according to entropy levels and every point is stimulated. Therefore, now we're going to look again. Here it is. We're going to go back to show you first measurement, first therapy, and second therapy. What can we conclude? That to do the therapy it is not necessary and it is not a requirement. It is not a requirement to look for a pathology, that is, it is not a requirement to look in this list for a disease of the person to be able to do treatment with the Metatron device. Here we have in the comparative analysis, let's see, we have the measurement of the person, here we have the measurement of the person, first therapy and second therapy, and the therapy is for all the problems that the person has in this area. It is not a specific therapy to a specific disease. That is, it is totally possible to measure and process without entering the database. Now, what is the use of this information? To show the usefulness and relevance of spectral similarity analysis, which characterizes the Metatron device, I'm going to show a publication from the US bookstore and an interesting article that says it's time to adopt quantum medicine. It's time to adopt quantum medicine. And here is an interesting reflection in terms of diagnosing different diseases. The incorporation of quantum mechanics into the study of medicine can allow an efficient diagnosis even before the patient's symptoms. It can enable efficient diagnosis even before the patient's symptoms appear. And here is the tremendous relevance because by having stats that are mapped with the characteristics of the diseases, we can see from all these maps which one is more similar, that is, the electromagnetic characteristic that the person has if it is similar or not to which of all these records. And that can allow us to detect early before symptoms appear. And here the phrase appears again but with another very relevant component. Quantum theory in medicine may allow for a much better understanding of DNA changes. It's talking about understanding DNA changes, i.e. mutagenesis, and it may even help increase the rate at which diseases are diagnosed even before a patient's symptoms appear. In other words, this is tremendously relevant. We can do a DNA analysis and we can detect preventively before symptoms appear in the patient. And here I want to highlight an important Russian scientist named Sitko. And I'm going to highlight this paragraph. Disturbances of meridian wave processes may appear long before the disease or the development of its morpho-functional signs. What is he saying? He is saying that in the meridians it is possible to detect early in a preventive way before the occurrence of the I'm going to highlight all this. This implication would mean that using the quantum medicine basis can help us detect diseases even before they present themselves symptomatically. It is important to note that Sitko is one of the founders of millimeter wave therapy. He along with another scientist studied a very interesting case in Russia of some scientists who were performing a therapy on a person applying frequency to heat thermal therapy in an eye and the person. Stated that his gastric discomfort had decreased with a diagnosed chronic gastric ulcer, and Sitko, together with other scientists, began to study this situation and managed to discover that emitting millimeter waves at the acupuncture points generated a therapeutic effect at a distance, that is, in other places, in different places, and from there millimeter wave therapy arises, and the father of this therapy is Sitko, who is mentioned in this document, precisely in this document that has as its title, "It is time to adopt quantum medicine." So if we have a wonderful device like the Metatron device that is capable of having a heal record that allows us to make comparisons and allows us to detect early before the disease manifests itself, but it is essential to understand that this is a diagnosis by similarity, which it is something similar, and it is not very different from the classic diagnosis of hospital medicine, where a diagnosis is not made by similarity, but the person is told when a diagnosis is given to him, he is told you have this pathology, and in bioresonance with the Metatron device is different. We are saying it is similar to. I want to highlight a beautiful book written by this Russian scientist, Sitko, who proposes the quantum physics of life, or rather quantum physics of the living, and in chapter 5 of this book he clearly mentions that he talks about quantum medicine, he is talking about quantum medicine. In relation to the use of millimeter waves in acupuncture points, and this is what I teach in my training platform in the millimeter wave course, which I have in English, Spanish and in several languages. And in the millimeter wave course you will be able to find all the historical, theoretical, conceptual aspect of millimeter waves and the different publications that appear on the World Health Organization portal, which will allow you to have a complete knowledge of millimeter wave therapy as a quantum medicine. And if, on the other hand, we have bioresonance therapy, which is holistic medicine, we can come to the conclusion that if we apply Metatron Hunter and after applying Metatron Hunter we apply millimeter waves, then we have quantum holistic medicine, and that is what I can teach them in my courses. Well, I have been training as a therapist for more than 10 years in the use of the Metatron device and millimeter waves. I worked for several years in medical centers using millimeter wave devices and the Metatron device, and I managed to verify and detect the great benefit that the application of these two therapies. If you have any questions, any doubts, you can enter my website, the contacts area. You can communicate through my WhatsApp and through my email.